Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. He had been waiting for this day his whole life. Today, humans would meet aliens for the first time. His ship, the USS Endeavour, was flying toward a huge space station that belonged to something called the Galactic Council. Jake was nervous but excited. He had read all the files about the different alien races they would meet. There were the Zephyrians, who looked like tall blue people with 4 arms. There were the Krolak, who were short and had thick skin like rocks. There were many other species too, all living together in peace for hundreds of years. Dr. Lisa Carter walked onto the bridge carrying a thick folder. She was the ship's expert on alien life forms. Her job was to help humans understand how to talk to aliens and not make them angry. "Captain, I have been reading the files they sent us," Lisa said. "The aliens have been watching Earth for many years. They think we are okay, but nothing special. They call us Standard Class C sapients." Jake laughed. "That does not sound very impressive." "It is not," Lisa replied. "It means they think we are smart enough to talk to, but not smart enough to worry about. They see us like we might see a friendly dog, cute and harmless." Commander Ryan Brooks joined them on the bridge. He was in charge of making sure the meeting with aliens went well. Ryan had spent months learning alien customs and rules. He did not want humans to look stupid on their first day. "The Zephyrians sent us a list of rules," Ryan said. "We must follow their meeting procedures exactly. No sudden movements, no loud voices. We must wait for them to speak first. They have been doing this for a very long time." Jake nodded. "What do they want from us?" "Not much," Ryan answered. "They are offering us junior membership in their council. That means we get a small area of space to live in and we can trade with them. But we have to follow all their rules and stay in our assigned area." Dr. Carter opened her folder and showed them pictures of the alien species. "Look at this," she said. "Every alien race has a specific job in their society. The Zephyrians are the diplomats. They talk and make deals. The Krolak are the builders. They make buildings and machines. The Vorthak are the soldiers. They keep everyone safe." "What about us?" Jake asked. "What is our job supposed to be?" Lisa shrugged. "They have not decided yet. Right now, they just see us as the new kids who need to learn how things work. They think we will probably be good at something simple like farming or basic manufacturing." Ryan checked his watch. "We arrive at the station in 2 hours. Ambassador Kate Sullivan is already preparing her speech. She is going to tell them about human culture and what we want." Jake knew Kate well. She was smart and calm, perfect for talking to aliens. Kate had been chosen because she could stay friendly even when people were rude to her. The aliens were not mean, but they definitely thought humans were not very important. 2 hours later, the USS Endeavour docked at the massive alien space station. Jake had never seen anything so big. The station was the size of a small moon, with ships from dozens of different species coming and going constantly. Ambassador Kate Sullivan straightened her blue diplomatic uniform and walked toward the airlock. Behind her came Dr. Carter, Commander Brooks, and Captain Morrison. They were the first humans to officially meet alien civilizations. The airlock opened, and they stepped into a world unlike anything they had ever imagined. The corridor was huge, with ceilings so high they could barely see them. Alien creatures walked past, going about their daily business. Some floated in the air. Others walked on 6 legs. A few looked almost human except for strange colored skin or extra eyes. A tall blue Zephyrian approached them. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he walked. "Welcome, humans," he said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Zethkol. We have been expecting you." Kate stepped forward and bowed slightly, just as Ryan had taught her. "Thank you for inviting us. We are honored to be here." Zethkol smiled, showing teeth that were perfectly white and perfectly straight. "Please follow me. The council is ready to meet you." As they walked through the station, Jake noticed that other aliens barely looked at them. It was like humans were just another species joining the community. Nothing exciting or dangerous, just new neighbors moving into the cosmic neighborhood. The meeting hall was enormous. Representatives from 50 different alien species sat in curved rows, all looking down at the humans standing in the center. Kate began her speech about human history, culture, and hopes for the future. The aliens listened politely, but without much interest. When Kate finished, there was quiet clapping. Then the council leader, an ancient creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke. Humans will be granted junior membership status, the tree being announced. You will receive colonization rights to 12 solar systems in Sector 7. You may participate in standard trade agreements. Welcome to the Galactic Council. That was it. No celebration, no special ceremony. Humans had just become the newest and least important members of a galactic civilization. Jake felt a little disappointed. He had expected something more dramatic, but as they walked back to their ship, Kate seemed pleased. This is just the beginning, she told them. We have our foot in the door. Now we show them what humans can really do. Jake did not know it yet, but Kate was right. The aliens thought they had just met another ordinary species. They had no idea they had just invited something completely unprecedented into their carefully ordered galaxy. They thought humans were just people. They would learn how wrong they were. 6 months had passed since humans joined the Galactic Council. Everything seemed normal at first. Human ships traveled to their assigned star systems and began building colonies just like every new species did. The aliens expected this process to take several years, maybe even decades. New species always moved slowly and carefully. But something strange was happening in Sector 7. Zephyrian observer Veltar sat in his monitoring station, staring at reports that made no sense. According to his instruments, the humans had already established working colonies on 8 different planets. This should have been impossible. Most species took 5 years just to build their first successful settlement. Veltar checked his equipment 3 times to make sure it was working correctly. The readings were accurate. Human colonies were not just surviving. They were growing fast. Very fast. He sent a message to his supervisor. The humans are expanding much faster than our models predicted. Request permission to investigate personally. The War response came back quickly. Permission granted. Find out what they are doing wrong. They will probably need our help soon. Veltar packed his observation gear and traveled to the human colony on New Terra. When his ship approached the planet, he was shocked by what he saw. The humans had built 3 major cities and a network of roads connecting them. Mining operations covered 2 continents. Farms stretched across vast areas of land. He landed at the main spaceport and was greeted by colony administrator Ben Clark. Ben was a tall man with friendly eyes and hands that were clearly used to hard work. Welcome to New Terra, Ben said, with a smile. We have been expecting a visit from the council. How can we help you? Veltar looked around the bustling spaceport. Ships were loading and unloading cargo constantly. Workers moved with purpose and efficiency. Everything looked organized and productive. I am here to observe your colony development, Veltar explained. Our models suggested you would still be working on basic infrastructure. How did you build all this so quickly? Ben laughed. We work hard and we adapt fast. When something does not work the way we planned, we try something else. Come on, let me show you around. As they toured the colony, Veltar became more and more confused. The humans were doing things that should not work. Their mining equipment was a mixture of standard galactic technology and bizarre human modifications. They had turned farming tools into construction equipment. They had built water purification systems using parts from 3 different incompatible technologies. This should not function, Veltar said, pointing at a power generator that appeared to be held together with metal cables and some kind of sticky substance. But it does function, Ben replied. Our engineer Maria Lopez figured out how to make it work better than the original design. It produces 30% more power and uses less fuel. Veltar was not the only alien observer who was confused. On the other side of human space, Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hughes was working with a team of Krolik engineers on the planet Zerion Prime. The Krolik had been trying to fix their terraforming project for 23 years. The planet's atmosphere was too thin and the soil was too acidic. They had spent enormous amounts of money and resources, but nothing worked. The project was considered a failure. Sam's team had been on the planet for only 3 weeks. They were supposed to be learning from the Krolik about proper terraforming techniques. Instead, they had already identified the core problems and proposed solutions. The issue is not the soil chemistry, Sam explained to the Krolik project leader, Engineer Thorik. The issue is that you are fighting the planet instead of working with it. Thorik's rocky face showed confusion. We must change the planet to match our requirements. That is how terraforming works. That is one way, Sam agreed. But there are other ways. Look at these readings. The planet wants to have a thin atmosphere. Instead of fighting that, we work with it. We modify our approach to succeed in a thin atmosphere environment. Sam's team spent the next 2 weeks implementing changes that violated several established terraforming principles. They used smaller atmospheric processors in multiple locations instead of one large processor. They introduced plant species that actually thrived in acidic soil instead of trying to neutralize the acid. They built settlements that were designed for thin atmosphere from the beginning. The results were remarkable. Within 1 month, the terraforming project showed more progress than it had in the previous 5 years. On Earth, Dr. Amy Foster was making her own discoveries. She worked at a research station that studied human adaptation to different planetary environments. What she found made her question everything scientists thought they knew about human biology. This cannot be right, Amy said to her assistant, Dr. Carl Miller. She was looking at genetic samples from human colonists who had been living on high-gravity worlds for only 6 months. The readings look correct to me, Carl replied. What is wrong? According to these results, the colonists are already showing genetic adaptations to high gravity, Amy explained. Their bone density has increased. Their muscle fiber composition is changing. Their cardiovascular systems are adapting. This type of adaptation should take thousands of years, not months. Amy ran the tests again. Then she requested samples from colonies on low-gravity worlds, desert planets, and frozen worlds. The results were the same everywhere. Humans were adapting to new environments much faster than any known species. She sent her findings to the Galactic Council's Science Division. The response was predictable. Please check your equipment and run the tests again. Biological adaptation does not occur at the speeds you are reporting. But Amy knew her equipment was working correctly. Humans were doing something that should have been impossible. They were changing to match their environment in real time. Word of these strange human behaviors began to spread through the galactic community. At first, most aliens dismissed the reports as mistakes or exaggerations. New species always had beginner's luck. They would settle into normal patterns soon enough. But the reports kept coming. Human traders who learned alien languages in weeks, instead of years. Human mechanics who could repair alien technology they had never seen before. Human farmers who grew successful crops on planets where other species had failed. Zethkol, the Zephyrian ambassador who had first welcomed humans to the council, found himself reviewing more and more unusual reports about human activities. During a council meeting, he raised his concerns. The human expansion rate continues to exceed all projected models, he announced to the assembled delegates. They are demonstrating capabilities that our classification system did not predict. The ancient tree being who led the council waved his branches dismissively. New species often show unexpected energy in their first years. They will settle into established patterns once they understand how galactic civilization works. But privately, some council members were beginning to wonder if humans were exactly what they appeared to be. They were still just people, of course, but maybe they were a different kind of people than anyone had encountered before. The galaxy was about to learn just how different humans could be when they really needed to be. A threat was coming that would test every species in ways they had never been tested before. And when that threat arrived, the galaxy would discover that humans had never been just people at all. The warning came from the edge of the galaxy where few ships ever traveled. A Zephyrian deep space monitoring station detected something massive moving through the void. At first, the operators thought it was a natural phenomenon like a meteor, shower, or cosmic debris. But as they studied the readings more carefully, they realized they were looking at something much worse. Ships. thousands of them, all moving together in perfect formation toward the heart of galactic civilization. The station commander, Yelmoth, had been monitoring deep space for 40 years. He had never seen anything like this. The ships were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They moved in a pattern that suggested intelligence and purpose, but they were not like any known starship design. Yelmoth sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. Unknown fleet approaching from Sector 12. Estimate arrival in core systems within 6 months. Recommend immediate investigation. The Council's response was swift. They sent their fastest scout ship to intercept the unknown fleet and attempt communication. 3 days later, they received a message that chilled every member of Galactic civilization to their core. The scout ship was gone. Not destroyed, not captured, simply gone. In its place was empty space and a fading energy signature that suggested complete molecular disintegration. Ancient records keepers scrambled through historical databases, searching for any reference to ships that could completely erase matter. What they found made the situation even more terrifying. The Devourers, a species so old that most civilizations considered them a myth. They had not been seen for over 10,000 years, and many scientists believed they had never existed at all, but the historical records were clear. The Devourers consumed entire star systems, converting all matter into energy to fuel their endless journey through space. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They did not communicate. They simply consumed everything in their path and moved on to the next system. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every member species gathered to discuss the threat and plan their response. The chamber was filled with worried voices speaking in dozens of different languages. The ancient tree being who led the council raised his branches for silence. "Fellow beings," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries, "we face a threat that our civilization has never encountered. The historical records suggest that the Devourers cannot be reasoned with or deterred. Our only option is strategic withdrawal." Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. This was the standard galactic response to overwhelming threats. Evacuate the outer systems, consolidate defenses around the most important worlds, and hope the enemy would lose interest and move on. Evacuation orders went out immediately. Every colony in the outer rim systems received the same message. Abandon your settlements immediately. Evacuate to designated safe zones in the core systems. This is not a drill. Most species began packing immediately. The Zephyrians had evacuation, procedures that had been refined over thousands of years. The Krolak had massive transport ships designed specifically for moving entire populations. Every civilization knew exactly what to do when faced with an unstoppable threat. Every civilization except one. On the human colony of New Haven, Administrator Ben Clark received the evacuation order and read it 3 times. Then he called a meeting of the colony leadership. The conference room was packed with farmers, miners, engineers, and families who had spent 2 years building their new home. "The council wants us to abandon New Haven," Ben announced. "They say something called the Devourers is coming and we need to evacuate to safety." The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Maria Lopez, the engineer who had modified half the colony's equipment, raised her hand. "What exactly are these Devourers?" she asked. Ben read from the official report. "They are an ancient species that consumes star systems. They convert all matter into energy. They cannot be reasoned with or stopped." Another colonist, Farmer Pete Johnson, stood up. "So the plan is to run away and hope they do not follow us?" "That appears to be the plan," Ben replied. Pete shook his head. "My family did not come all this way to run at the first sign of trouble. This is our home now. If something wants to take it, they will have to go through us." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. These were people who had left Earth to build something new. They had worked for 2 years to turn a barren planet into a thriving colony. They were not going to abandon everything without a fight. Ben looked around the room at the determined faces. These people had surprised the galaxy with their rapid expansion and creative solutions. Maybe they could surprise everyone again. "All right," Ben said. Anyone who wants to evacuate can use the transport ships that are coming. But anyone who wants to stay and fight, we need to start planning right now. Similar scenes played out across human space. On New Terra, Colony Administrator Laura Martinez received dozens of messages from colonists volunteering to help defend their world. On Kepler Station, Director Frank Wilson began converting civilian ships into military vessels. The Garcia family on New California sent a message to Earth. We are not running. Send weapons if you can, but we are staying. The Johnson family on Proxima Colony sent a similar message. This is our home, we will defend it. The Patel family on New Mumbai added, if we run now, we will always be running. It ends here. On Earth, Admiral Karen Wright received these messages with a mixture of pride and terror. The humans were doing something that no species in galactic history had ever done. They were choosing to fight an unstoppable enemy rather than following logical evacuation procedures. The Galactic Council was horrified. Emergency sessions were called to discuss the human situation. Ambassador Zethkol pleaded with human representatives to follow proper protocols. You do not understand, Zethkol explained to Ambassador Kate Sullivan. The Devourers have consumed hundreds of civilizations. Running away is not cowardice, it is the only rational response. Your people will die for nothing. Kate listened politely, then replied, maybe you are right. Maybe we will all die. But we would rather die fighting for our homes than live as refugees. This is who humans are. The aliens could not understand this logic. Throughout galactic history, survival had always been more important than territory. You could always find new worlds to colonize, but you could never replace lost lives. The human response seemed like madness. But as the Devourers moved closer to inhabited systems, something unexpected began to happen. Reports started coming in from human colonies that should have been evacuated. Instead of abandoning their worlds, the humans were digging in and preparing for war. They were turning mining equipment into weapons. They were converting cargo ships into fighters. They were building defensive systems from spare parts and determination. They were doing something that the galaxy had never seen before. They were preparing to fight the unfightable. The Devourers had awakened after 10,000 years of slumber, expecting to find the same galaxy they had always known. Civilizations that would run, hide, and eventually be consumed. They had no way of knowing that something new had joined galactic society. They had no way of knowing that humans were not just people. They were people who refused to run, refused to hide, and refused to accept that any enemy was truly unstoppable. Galaxy was about to witness something unprecedented in its long history. For the first time, prey was going to fight back. The first Devourer ships reached human space 3 weeks ahead of schedule. They had been moving faster as they consumed the outer rim systems, growing stronger with each world they destroyed. The alien evacuation fleets watched from safe distances as the massive ships approached the first human colonies. What happened next would be talked about in galactic history classes for thousands of years. Instead of the usual pattern of consumption, civilizations fleeing in panic while their worlds were systematically destroyed, the Devourers encountered something they had never faced before. Resistance. Captain Tony Martinez commanded a small cargo ship called the Lucky Strike. When the first Devourer ship approached his colony on Frontier Prime, Tony made a decision that shocked everyone listening to the communications channels. This is Captain Martinez to all ships in the area, he broadcast. I am going to ram the lead Devourer. All crew members, get to the escape pods now. The alien observers could not believe what they were hearing. A single human cargo ship was attacking a vessel the size of a small moon. It was not just suicide. It was pointless suicide. But Tony Martinez was not trying to destroy the Devourer ship. He was trying to learn something. As his ship slammed into the alien vessel at maximum speed, sensors recorded everything. The explosion created a massive energy burst that damaged the Devourer's outer hull. For the first time in 10,000 years, a Devourer ship had been hurt. Engineer Maria Lopez on New Haven received the sensor data from Tony's sacrifice. Within 6 hours, she had figured out something important. The Devourer ships were not invincible. They were just very, very strong. But strong things could be broken if you hit them the right way. Maria worked with her team to modify every piece of equipment in the colony. Mining lasers became focused beam weapons. Construction vehicles became mobile artillery platforms. Even farming equipment was turned into something dangerous. When the Devourers reached New Haven, they found something unprecedented. The humans did not run. They did not hide. They fought back with weapons that should not have worked, but somehow, Farmer Pete Johnson used his tractor to pull a modified mining laser across the battlefield, targeting weak points in Devourer armor. The Johnson family worked together to coordinate attacks that maximized damage while minimizing human losses. The Garcia children, ages 12 and 15, operated communication systems that kept human forces connected across the entire planet. Their parents led civilian volunteers in manufacturing ammunition and medical supplies. The Patel family converted their medical facility into a combat hospital while simultaneously developing new tactics for fighting enemies that seemed impossible to kill. None of these individual efforts should have mattered against an enemy that consumed star systems. But something strange was happening. The human tactics were working. Not perfectly, not easily, but they were working. General Steve Parker arrived with the first wave of Earth military reinforcements. He was a career soldier who had studied every major battle in human history. When he saw what the colonists had accomplished, he immediately understood something that would change the entire war. "These things have never fought anyone who fights back," he told his staff officers. "They are used to consuming passive targets. They have no experience with adaptive resistance." Steve began implementing something the galaxy had never seen, a military doctrine based on constant innovation. Instead of following established battle plans, human forces were encouraged to experiment, improvise, and try new tactics in real time. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Hughes took a team of combat engineers behind enemy lines. Their mission was not to destroy Devourer ships, but to study them and find weaknesses. Sam's team spent 3 days inside a damaged Devourer vessel, mapping its systems and identifying critical components. What they found changed everything. The Devourers were not just ships, they were living creatures, massive ancient organisms that had evolved to consume energy and convert it into more of themselves. They were intelligent, but their intelligence was focused entirely on consumption. They had no experience with creatures that could think as fast and adapt as quickly as humans. Dr. Helen Davis, a xenobiologist who had volunteered for combat duty, made the breakthrough discovery. She was studying tissue samples from Devourer creatures when she noticed something strange. "They are not used to pain," she told General Parker over a secure communication link. "Every time we hurt them, they pause for several seconds. They seem confused by the concept of being damaged." "What does that mean for us?" Steve asked. "It means they have never developed defensive strategies," Helen explained. "They have always been the predator, never the prey. They do not know how to fight, something that fights back." This information spread through human forces like wildfire. Every ship captain, every ground commander, every civilian volunteer learned the same lesson. The Devourers could be confused, distracted, and outmaneuvered by enemies who refused to behave like victims. The tide of war began to turn. Human forces developed new tactics faster than the Devourers could adapt. When the aliens learned to counter one human strategy, humans had already moved on to 3 new approaches. Captain Lisa Wong turned her merchant vessel into a mobile command center that coordinated attacks across multiple star systems. Her crew developed real-time communication networks that allowed human forces to share tactical information instantly. Engineer Bob Taylor created weapons from mining equipment that could penetrate Devourer armor at specific angles and frequencies. His designs were shared across human space and modified by local engineers to match available resources. Dr. Nancy Kim established field hospitals that could be moved and rebuilt within hours, allowing human forces to maintain medical support, even during rapid tactical movements. The aliens watched in amazement as humans did something unthinkable. They were winning battles against an enemy that had never lost. But more importantly, human tactics began to spread to other species. Zephyrian commanders started allowing their officers to modify standard procedures during battle. Krolik engineering teams began experimenting with hybrid technologies that combined different systems in new ways. Ambassador Zethkol found himself coordinating a joint alien-human task force that was actually pushing Devourer forces back from core systems. "I do not understand how this is working," he told Admiral Karen Wright. Karen smiled. "That is exactly why it is working. The Devourers do not understand it either." What the galaxy was witnessing was not just a military victory. It was the emergence of a completely new way of thinking about conflict. For thousands of years, galactic civilizations had approached war like a chess game, methodical, predictable, following established rules. Humans approached war like they approached everything else, as a problem to be solved through creativity, adaptation, and the absolute refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The Devourers, for the first time in their existence, found themselves facing enemies who could think faster than they could adapt, who could create new solutions faster than problems could be presented, and who simply refused to be consumed. The ancient predators were learning something they had never experienced before. For the first time in 10,000 years, they were afraid. The war ended not with a great battle, but with something no one had expected. The Devourers stopped fighting and began to retreat. After consuming star systems for 10,000 years without ever encountering real resistance, they had met an enemy they could not understand or defeat. For the first time in their existence, they chose to withdraw rather than continue consuming. Admiral Karen Wright stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching long-range sensors track the massive Devourer fleet as it moved away from galactic civilization. The ancient ships were heading back toward the empty void between galaxies, leaving behind systems they had planned to consume. "They are really leaving," her communications officer reported. "All Devourer forces are withdrawing from inhabited space." Karen nodded, but she felt no celebration. The victory had cost too much. Entire human colonies had been destroyed. Thousands of people had died fighting an enemy that should have been impossible to defeat. But somehow, humanity had not just survived. They had won. The victory had changed everything. 2 months after the Devourer retreat, Ambassador Kate Sullivan found herself standing before the full Galactic Council once again. But this time, she was not speaking as a junior member asking for permission to join galactic society. She was speaking as the representative of the species that had saved civilization itself. The Great Assembly Hall was packed. Every member species had sent representatives to hear what the humans had to say. Even species that had never attended council meetings before were present. Everyone wanted to understand how humans had accomplished the impossible. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Kate began, "we did not set out to change how war is fought. We did not plan to challenge 10,000 years of military doctrine. We simply refused to abandon our homes when someone tried to take them from us." The ancient tree being who led the council leaned forward on his massive roots. "Human Ambassador Sullivan, our military analysts have studied your battle records extensively. Your forces violated virtually every established principle of galactic warfare. Yet you achieved victory against an enemy that had never been defeated. How do you explain this?" Kate smiled. "We explain it the same way we explain everything else. Humans do. When faced with a problem, we find a solution. When told something is impossible, we try it anyway. When confronted with an enemy that cannot be beaten, we refuse to believe it." A Zephyrian representative raised one of his 4 hands. "But your casualties were enormous. Your losses were catastrophic. By any rational measure, your resistance was too costly to justify." "That is where you are wrong," Kate replied. "Our losses were painful, but they were not meaningless. Every human who died fighting the Devourers died protecting something they believed in. They died defending their families, their homes, their future. That is not a cost. That is an investment." The Krolik ambassador spoke up. "Your species appears to thrive in chaotic conditions that would paralyze our decision-making processes. How do you maintain unit cohesion when every individual is encouraged to innovate independently?" Kate thought about all the reports she had read. Captain Martinez sacrificing his ship to gather intelligence. Maria Lopez modifying equipment that should not have worked, Pete Johnson using farming tools as weapons. Thousands of humans making individual decisions that somehow combined into a victorious strategy. We maintain cohesion because we share the same goal, she explained. Every human in this war knew exactly what we were fighting for. The right to exist as free people in our own homes. When everyone shares the same purpose, individual creativity strengthens the group instead of fragmenting it. Dr. Helen Davis, who had been promoted to chief of xenobiology after her discoveries about devourer psychology, was also present at the council meeting. She stood up to address a question that many aliens had been asking. The devourers were not evil, Helen said. They were simply doing what they had always done, consuming energy to survive. But they had never encountered a food source that fought back intelligently. They had no experience with prey that could adapt faster than they could respond. An elderly Vorthak military commander asked, "Are you saying that humans are simply better warriors than other species?" "No," Helen replied. "We are saying that humans are better at being human than anyone expected. We adapt quickly, we think creatively, and we refuse to accept limitations that other species consider natural laws." The questions continued for hours. Every alien species wanted to understand how humans had changed the fundamental nature of galactic warfare. But the real changes were just beginning. Within 6 months of the Devourer retreat, human advisors were stationed throughout council space, not as students learning from alien wisdom, but as teachers sharing human approaches to problem solving. Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps began training officers in rapid adaptation techniques. Instead of following rigid negotiation protocols, diplomats learned to adjust their strategies based on real-time feedback from their negotiation partners. Krolik engineering teams started incorporating human modification principles into their construction projects. Instead of building structures that followed exact specifications, they learned to build systems that could be adapted and improved during use. Vorthak military academies began teaching creative tactics alongside traditional strategy. Officers learned that the best battle plan was often the one that could be changed completely when circumstances demanded it. Colony Administrator Ben Clark, who had refused evacuation orders and helped organize the defense of New Haven, found himself appointed as the first director of human integration. His job was to help other species understand how humans approach challenges. The secret is not that humans are smarter or stronger than other species, Ben explained to a group of alien colonial administrators. The secret is that we do not believe in permanent limitations. When someone tells us something cannot be done, we hear that as a challenge to find a new way to do it. Engineer Maria Lopez became head of the new Adaptive Technology Institute, where humans and aliens worked together to develop solutions that combined different approaches to engineering problems. Her first major project was designing ships that could be modified and upgraded during flight, allowing crews to adapt to unexpected situations without returning to port. General Steve Parker was promoted to head of Galactic Defense Coordination. His new military doctrine was revolutionary. Instead of preparing for specific types of enemies, military forces were trained to adapt to any enemy they might encounter. Dr. Lisa Carter established research programs that studied how humans adapted to different environments so quickly. Her discoveries led to new medical treatments and biological enhancements that helped all species colonize hostile worlds more successfully. The galaxy had learned something profound about itself. For thousands of years, civilizations had focused on perfecting established systems and maintaining stable order. This approach had created a peaceful, prosperous galactic community. But it had also created a community that was vulnerable to threats that could not be handled by established methods. Humans brought something different, the ability to change rapidly when change was needed, to find new solutions when old solutions failed, and to refuse defeat even when victory seemed impossible. Ambassador Kate Sullivan's final report to Earth summarized the transformation. "We came to the stars thinking we were joining something greater than ourselves. Instead, we discovered that we were bringing something essential that the galaxy was missing. We were not just people until conflict came. We were the part of galactic civilization that refused to accept that any problem was truly unsolvable." Captain Jake Morrison, now Admiral Morrison and commander of the Joint Human-Alien Fleet, made the final log entry in the official war records. The galaxy thought it knew what humans were. Standard Class C sapients, nothing special, just people, trying to fit into an established order. But when the Devourers forced us to show who we really are, everyone learned the truth. We are not just people. We are the people who refuse to give up, refuse to back down, and refuse to accept that anything is impossible. We are the answer to questions the galaxy did not even know it was asking. The Devourers never returned. Some scientists believed they had found other galaxies to consume. Others thought they had simply decided that this galaxy was too dangerous to be worth the effort. But everyone agreed on one thing. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been before humans arrived. It was stronger, more adaptable, and more capable of facing the unknown challenges that waited among the stars. And at the heart of this transformation were humans, people who had never been just people at all, but who had needed conflict to show the galaxy who they really were.